probably the best way to prepare your transformer for painting and getting all that flaky old paint off, any corrosion that might be on there, maybe a little bit of rust. Again, I told you, don't use sandpaper. Get you a little wire brush like this, a good stiff wire brush, and depending on how dirty it is or how rusty or corroded or how flaky the paint is, you could probably get by with a brass brush, but I like the little wire brush the best. And you just go ahead and just give it to it. Just clean that baby up. Take your time doing it, no rush as usual. Just go ahead and be careful of those wires. Just give her a good scouring on all four sides. It's already pretty clear that these wires are going to give me a real problem. If I start messing around, twisting them, bending them to do my splices and to clean up as much as I can and get them in reasonably good shape, I really risk the chance of breaking off one of these wires down here where it connects into the transformer. So I'm going to have to sort of immobilize that and also insulate these wires one from another. I don't want the wires touching each other as well as the wire touching the clamshell on the transformer, which in turn is going to be screwed to the chassis. You can see how torn up these wires are right here from where it came through that clamshell. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my old handy dandy standby here, old liquid tape, and I'm going to put it all down in through here. I can't really gob it on too thick because the clamshell won't go back on, but I am going to get it down between these wires the best I can without actually manhandling them. And I'm going to insulate everything, and once this stuff dries, it dries fairly solid, keeping the wires from moving around too much while I'm fiddle farting around with them on the opposite end. Alright, here we go. I'm going to go ahead and get the old brush down in there as far as I can. Actually, if I weren't holding the camera with one hand, I'd be lightly lifting up the wire with that hand in order to give me a little room there to work and get the liquid tape down in there. Now we'll go ahead and tip it up on the end. See if we can't get a little bit down in the back side here, just like that, all the way around. Alright, I'm going to have to shut the camera off here to work with each one of these wires a little bit individually so I can make sure they're insulated from one another. Well, there's the sanitized version. It was pretty messy there for a while, but I kind of cleaned it up. I put a piece of tape around it to hold the wires together until it firms and sets up. It takes about an hour or so for that to do that, and when I'm done I may even add just a little bit more to the underneath there. I don't know. Well, that's that. She's all dry. It took a little over an hour and a half, I guess, somewhere around there. Nice and solid. I can tap on those wires, they won't even move. Nice and solid. I like that. I hit it on the bottom real good, and now I can fiddle fart around with these things and go ahead and put new wiring on, and I don't have to worry about, or at least I have less worry, I guess is the word I should use. I have less worry about these wires possibly breaking loose from down inside the windings on the transformer. There's 9 wires in this transformer. We have 2 for the heater wires. We have the center tap. We have a power cord wire, 1 that goes to the on-off switch, and then 4 that go to the rectifier tube. I think that's 9. Anyway, there's 9 wires there, but what I'll do is I'll select one of them, and probably this one right here, since it's the worst off. I'll do that one first, and I'll cut them back, maybe to about right in this area here. Not cut them back, I'll cut them back to about right there and strip them back a little bit further and attach some of the 22 gauge really good wire that I've got onto the end of it, and I'll show you how to do that. But before I do, I'm going to go ahead and use a specific color code arrangement on this thing. I remembered a while back reading something about certain color codes, standard type color codes used on these old vintage radios. But after I got looking around, I found that That wasn't the case. In fact, it was up to the individual radio manufacturer. So what I'm going to do for this radio, on what I did find, which was posted by a fellow named Norm Leal, L-E-A-L. I trust him a great deal. Very, very smart, learned individual concerning these old radios. He said that the filament wire in the power supply, if it's around 6.3 volts, you should use green wires. Well, that's what we're going to be using right here. These two wires right here will have green wires put on them. And he said that the primary wires should be black, and the high voltage wires should be red, which means the secondary of the transformer. However, that would include the center tap. I'm going to go with orange on the center tap. I want that center tap to be somewhat close to red, but I want it to have its own color so I can spot it in a hurry if I need it later for troubleshooting purposes. So that's the way we're going to be color coding this thing. If you don't already have a good pair, go out and buy a good pair of wire strippers. These are Craftsman, and right there it says they're made in the where's it at here? It's over here. There it is, right there. It says it's made in the United States, USA. I always try to buy stuff made in the U.S. Don't always have that luxury though. But when I get a chance to do it, I'm going to do it. It may cost me $1 or $2 more, or even $5 more, but you know something, I don't care. And just go ahead and strip it. And this wire being as brittle as it is, it just comes right off. Let me see here. I guess maybe I didn't cut it quite deep enough. Then just go ahead and get that off of there. I'll strip it a little further back, of course. I used the piece I cut off. I stripped it on this end right here with my strippers to find out what size I needed to strip this without cutting through the wire. I've done that in the past, selected the wrong slot and wound up cutting through the wire. Man, you don't want to make it too much shorter than what I've got right here. And I'll strip it back just a little bit more and we'll do the next step. I like to use what's called the coil method of soldering. You take the wire you're attaching and put a coil on the end of it, and then slip the coil over the wire that's attached to the transformer. Years ago they used to have a thing called, I think they were called Quiggles or something like that. They were little coils that you buy in a little tin box, and they were the same thing. You slid the coil over one wire and then slid the other wire. They were large enough, you slid the other wire into the other end and soldered it. And the reason I like the coil method is if I ever have to remove this wire, it will no longer further damage the existing wire. What you want is you tin the wire, the existing wire. You cut it, strip it, and tin it. And then you take the replacement wire. In this case, I'm using the actual wire to coil the wire around, the black wire around, which will give me the best fit. You can use jeweler's screwdrivers, which I normally use. But in this case, I decided to go ahead and show you that if you don't have jeweler's screwdrivers, you can tin the wire you cut off, strip it and tin it. Get it tinned real good so there's not a bunch of blobby solder on the outside. You want it smoothed down to the actual thickness of the wire. Lay the black wire next to it and then start coiling the wire around the old wire. Now I'll do that and show you what it looks like. Alright, here it is half coiled, half finished coil. I'll go ahead and complete it all the way. When you're done, go ahead and remove it. You've got your little coil, but it's cocked at an angle. I don't know if you could see that very well. It's cocked at an angle, so what you have to do now is straighten it up. Straighten it up by either taking your jeweler's screwdriver and shoving it in from the opposite direction, or in this case I'm using the wire itself. And then it's a matter of just straightening it up and keep messing with it until you get a nice straight coil on there. And there you have it. There's your coil. And you just slip the coil on the end of the wire. You don't want a whole lot of wire sticking out beyond it, so trim it down to where it fits just about right, and then go ahead and solder it in place. It has been soldered. You don't need a ton of solder on there, by the way. It doesn't take a lot of solder to actually solder anything. Some people put globs and globs and globs on it. Not necessary. The last thing is to take a little alcohol and clean off some of that old flux that came out of there. It's good practice to do this, especially on the components that you're soldering into the chassis. The final thing is to apply the heat shrink tubing, and I'm kind of fortunate. I get there's a place up the road from where I live that sells this stuff in long packages and short packages, and I go up there every once in a while and just load up on what I need. I use quite a bit of heat shrink. About 1/4 of an inch on each side of your solder joint. You can go longer if you wish, it's up to you. I kind of use 1/4 of an inch on each side and then slide it up the wire and make sure it's kind of like in the center. I can squeeze it with my finger to make it right about there. You're looking for good uniform shrinkage on this, and the only way you're going to get it is with a heat gun. Now, I have a Wagner here that I bought, I think I got it from Amazon.com for practically nothing, and it has a very low speed, which is what I like. Apply your heat. Don't apply it till the wire cooks. All you want to do is shrink the heat shrink. And let's see if we can do this here. Nice low speed. There she goes. She's shrinking uniformly. Like so. Around the back side. Get around the other side. Get that thing shrunk up real nice. Up underneath. Remember, don't cook it. You just want to shrink it. And that is about done. Now I'll let it cool down, and I will do the rest of the wires one by one with the various colors I already talked about. Oh yeah, one more thing. Don't forget to re-tag your wire. The black wire was solid and it was easy to make a coil out of. Now the green wire is stranded. So what I have to do is I have to tin it to get it nice and hard in order to make that coil. So if you use stranded wire, that's what you'll have to do. On this wire right here, you'll notice that there's a fray right there. And again, this wire is pretty weak, and this is our filament wire. Well, what I'm going to do, I could just put a bunch of liquid tape on it, but that's not the way to go with this one. When you have that situation and you have some heat shrink, slide some heat shrink up over the top of it and shrink it down. Well, that's it, folks. All the wires are soldered on, all the heat shrink's been put in, and additional heat shrink added up along the wire where there was some weak insulation, just to strengthen it up and give it a little more support. This thing is ready to be put back in, except we've got to put it back together first. Now, next time we'll go ahead and clean up these clamshells. I've got to stop off at my local hardware store and pick up 4 bolts that fit down in these countersunk holes. They're 6-sided holes, and whoever opened up this transformer last time lost all 4. And we're going to go ahead and pick up 4 new bolts. They go in from the inside of the clamshell and stick out through the outside. And I think what I'm going to do, in addition to opening up this hole down here a little bit with my moto tool and cutter blade to get, so these wires have a whole lot less stress on them, I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and rough up down in here in these countersunk areas where the bolt head fits. And I'm going to go ahead and do a little JB weld down there when I put the bolt in, so it'll be cemented and not move around, or not go up inside the clamshell when I'm trying to put a nut on it from the other side. I'm just going to fix them in place. I know it's been a boring kind of thing, over and over and over, me saying the same thing, clean, take your time, square things away, don't get in a rush, double check this, triple check that. But I got to tell you, had someone told me these things when I first started out in this hobby, had someone said, John, you're going too fast, slow down, what is this, what is that, you're not doing this right, you're not doing that right, take your time. If someone had done all that to me, I would have made a million fewer mistakes. So that's what I'm trying to help you with. Someday, hopefully, it'll pay off for some of you. So until next time, when we work on the clamshells and get them stripped down and get this baby back together, be good. This is John.